Okay, so here is the bottom of the cage, cleaned up, and it's got some foam sealant to prevent any further leaks like you saw in the bottom of the cage or in the cabinet underneath that we have. I did want to explain the ropes that connect to the climbing sticks or perches out to the door. That's so when the door is open, we're trying to encourage Viserion to be comfortable enough to start kind of venturing out a little bit. He hasn't quite taken to it just yet, but when we have opportunities, we do leave the doors open, so that way we're hoping that he'll kind of start getting comfortable with that. He's very comfortable with being held. We don't have any issues with that at all, but we're wanting to hopefully see if he'll start to kind of come out a little bit on his own. But of course we're not forcing it. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I'm just getting over being sick. For those who don't know, on the cage setup, this is called poultry fencing, this plastic. It's great for holding the branches and attaching the branches to the side of the cage. It also makes it easier for Viserion to actually grab a hold of it without risking getting a claw stuck into the actual screen itself. They can actually pull a claw out and cause infection. So I always recommend to anybody building their own cage to probably put something like this on the inside. Easier for them to hang on, to wrap their tail around, to feel more secure. And then you can attach the screen to the outside of the cage and to staple it to prevent any issues of feeders trying to make a break for it. So anyway, that's what the bottom looks like. We're waiting for this to dry. And all it is, do we still have the can? Okay. All it is just Gaps and Cracks foam by GE. But the good thing is that once the bottom is placed on here, Viserion won't have any access to it. And of course, we're going to make sure that there's no fumes or anything from chemicals. My husband did add a little plastic around the edges, again, to help control the water flow from the mister to go down into the drainage. So we're hoping, we haven't had any issues with it going out, but this is just a little backup reassurance to keep all of this going down into the drainage. So with that said, I did want to show you a couple of other little tricks and tips that we do that will save you money. We're all about saving money because we all know keeping chameleons can be extremely expensive. So first off, don't go to Petco and buy one of their misters. They're expensive, they're outrageously priced, obviously, and they don't hold near as much water. This right here, we got in the garden section of a dollar store, does the same thing, and it holds more water. What I do is just get some of the purified water and warm it up in the microwave. I always test the temperature of the water before I do hand spray him. Make sure you do that. They do like warm water, but you can burn them if you're not careful. Just like an infant child, you want to make sure that the water is the right temperature before you just stick them in it. This right here is his feeder. He likes this. That's just regular screen attached to the back with a couple of zip ties. It does need to be cleaned out because it still has some powder in it. And now, look, we have some dubias that are trying to play dead. But anyway, this is just PVC pipe that was cut and sanded around the edges so that it's not sharp. And the bottom of it has holes in it with zip ties to hold it. The holes are large enough to where if any water gets in, they do drip right out. We use, what was this, a hanger? An old clothes hanger, excuse me while I'm trying to get my hands together, and attached it to the back And it's great with the poultry fencing because it's bent just right, so that way when we put his food in, let me back out. All we have to do is it slides right in to the poultry fencing and sits. And then the screening allows for the dubias or the crickets. Of course, mostly the crickets tend to hop right out, but the dubias can climb up on there, and he sees that, and it gets his attention. He knows what this is now because we've been using it for so long. He actually will sit right there because we put it in the same spot every time, and he will wait for us to put this in there. We need to get those dubias out and give them to him up in his playground. Say hi. I'm being goofy. Showing my pretty blues. Happy boy. But anyway, and that, of course, is just an avian playground that we bought at Petco for like 20 bucks. And the only recommendation, if you ever want to use something like this to keep them entertained while you need to get into their cage, I recommend decide exactly where you want everything to be and use wood glue. They're very wobbly because they're designed to be able to rearrange. There's different base stands in the bottom, as you can see. And we don't need that in there. Dubious. Anyway, anybody who does decide to use this method to hold them, please make sure you glue the bases down. They are extremely wobbly. Of course, this ladder, we don't have it glued to anything, but that's the only thing that is not attached. Even these things would pop right out. I mean, just fall out. So that's what we did, and it's nice and secure. And as you can tell, he likes going all around on it. Eventually, I want to get a small pot, though, with some good vines on it to put down in there and wrap some of the leaves around it so that way we can mist him while he's on it. Even when we take him outside, put him on it, although he's not spoiled at all. He happens to have his own tree that's out on our porch. Now, back to this. This is our laser temperature gun. It is one of the cheaper ones, but it does the trick until we can get a better one. We keep disposable, inexpensive gloves on hand. I recommend that whenever you're cleaning. Don't handle them with the gloves. They don't tend to like that very much, and they can snag on them. Hand sanitizer is an absolute must because we carry germs that they can't resist with their antibodies, and it's just best for them and for you. This is just a container where I have his multivitamin and vitamin D3 already mixed. That way they're combined. I do clean that out and make a new mix. This right here is what I recommend for all, especially new keepers. This is a little neat pin that came with our Arcadia that we use. But anyway, this notebook is kind of like a diary. These are all receipts of everything we purchased as well as when we purchased it as far as equipment goes. That way we can also remember where we got everything, including his Arcadia bulb, when we got it. If you do buy from Lightyear Reptiles an Arcadia light, or from any vendor for that matter, you can go on Arcadia's website and request reminders. What that will do is, oh yeah, there's a receipt and pamphlets and stuff like that. They will email you reminders when it's time to change the bulbs, just to be on the safe side. Now, this right here is the care sheet for Panthers that I did a lot of printing of important information from chameleon forums, obviously. I've got them separated based off what they're for, enclosures. It's just nice to have handy in case I need to go back and reference to see if there's something I'm doing wrong. But this important information, water humidity, things like that, if there's anything online from veterinarians that that their specialty is in exotics and chameleons, food and nutrition, gut loads, things like that. It's nice to have that handy without having to sit and look up, oh geez, where did I find that information on the internet? I don't have to worry about that. So I printed all that out, as you can see, all of this. Now, I have it separated in the back. In the back of the book, this right here is a list of the vitamins, the lights, cool mist humidifier, which we don't use anymore because the one we got was not making any difference at all. But his multivitamins, his lights, what kind of basking light, everything, and who the breeder was that we got our first chameleon from, who unfortunately passed away, but how he was shipped, when he was shipped, so forth. Now, I keep that towards the front, as well as when the date that they were received. Now, I have an actual diary where I date it and mark everything from what he was fed to how much he was fed. Now, in the beginning, it's pretty detailed. When we gave him his D3 multivitamin and when we gave him his vitamin A supplement. We do the vitamin A supplement because it is not scientifically proven that chameleons convert beta carotene into vitamin A like humans do. So don't rely on anything that says beta carotene to be a good supplement for vitamin A. Basarian was stuck in his shed for weeks. He was not progressing and he was having eye issues. On top of that, when we got him, he was not well taken care of. He was malnourished. His colors were dull. He has a swollen ankle, which he still has, but has improved greatly because we have him on a special low protein diet. We did take him to a vet. He does not have gout, but as a preventative measure, he will probably remain on a low protein diet probably for the rest of his life. Again, right here you can see when we gave him multivitamin D3. If he went outside and got any time out in the sun, we mark that. What he ate, what it was dusted with, regular poops and urates and so forth. But it's a good idea to keep a record of anything that you find. All of his ankle issues are in here. Size, any improvements, anything that may have gotten worse. That way, we take this to our vet when we go to see him. And that way, we know exactly when it started. We don't have to use memory and what kind of supplementation we're doing and how often. It's nice for our vet loves it because it's so much easier for him to have this information handy, and we don't have to sit and try to remember what we did and how often we did it. And also, if any issues come up, it's easy to go back and see when that started or what changed to discover what could have been the cause of it. So this is just some of the items that we use in how to save money on doing it. You can buy feeders just like this online. There is a guy who makes these that have magnetic attachments to the back. They're pretty cool. They have screens on the back, screen on the bottom and everything. Or you can try and make it yourself. I mean, the magnetic idea is pretty cool. You just attach the magnets to the inside of the cage, and that way you just stick it to the side where the magnets are. But anyway, we don't have everything quite back together yet. Those were just some tips and tricks that I wanted to show you guys. Outside on the porch, you can see his personal tree when it's warm enough for him to go outside and get some sun. His umbrella plant is probably close to 4.5 feet tall now. It was, I'd say about 3 feet when we got it, and we've only had it like 2 months. But the daylight bulbs inside the Arcadia are just amazing, and we put that in the middle. You'll see when we put everything back together, so he's got the grate back up here. The Dracaena sits over here, so that way it's not getting direct water and not direct sunlight, but just enough for it to grow, keeps it from dying. The umbrella shades it a lot. The pothos sits right here and also gets some shade from the daylight bulb, but the umbrella sits directly in the middle and takes up, which you'll see once we put everything back together, it will take up damn near the entire cage. So this is part 2. Once everything's back together, I will do a part 3 showing everything back together. And Basarian back in his cage. That rug is really ugly, I know, but it helps if any water leaks out the front, because sometimes the plant leaves cause the water to drip out. Anyway, that's something else that we're working on for a later time. Thank you.